Welcome to Daily Global Motivation, the place where your greatness is awakened, strengthened, and unleashed one powerful message at a time. Today's topic is simple, but the transformation it creates is extraordinary. It's about the one habit that can elevate your life 1% every single day. It's the habit that turns average into unstoppable. The habit that separates those who wish from those who rise. The habit that takes ordinary people and makes them extraordinary over time. Before we begin, make sure you subscribe, like, comment, and share this video, because someone you know might be one small habit away from completely changing their life. Today, we're diving deep into the practice that rewires your identity, upgrades your discipline, and builds irreversible momentum. This is not a quick fix, not a shortcut, not a miracle trick. This is a lifelong tool that compounds your growth until you become the strongest version of yourself. Get ready, because this message might be the turning point you've been waiting for. Let's begin. The one habit that will transform you 1% every day. There is one habit that has the power to shift the trajectory of your entire life. And that habit is the intentional practice of daily improvement, choosing every single day to grow just a little bit more than you were yesterday. Most people underestimate small progress because it doesn't feel exciting, glamorous, or dramatic, but small progress compounds into massive change when repeated consistently. A 1% improvement may seem insignificant in the moment, but over time, it becomes unstoppable momentum that reshapes your identity, your confidence, and your future. This habit teaches your mind to crave growth instead of comfort, clarity instead of confusion, and discipline instead of distraction. When you commit to improving just 1% each day, you don't overwhelm yourself with impossible expectations. You build your strength slowly, consistently, and powerfully. The mind begins to shift from I can't to I can, from I'm stuck to I'm growing, from I don't know how to I'll learn. This habit rewires your thinking, transforms your standards, and forces your excuses into silence. And as each day stacks on top of the last, your progress stops being accidental and becomes inevitable. The magic of becoming 1% better every day lies not in intensity, but in consistency. Anyone can give maximum effort for a week, but few can commit to growth every day, especially when the motivation fades, when life becomes busy, or when challenges make progress harder. But those who master this habit understand that consistency beats intensity every time. The goal is not perfection, it's persistence. And when you show up daily, even with small efforts, you build resilience that separates you from everyone who quits when things get difficult. Your mind learns that quitting is no longer an option. Your habits become stronger than your emotions. You stop relying on motivation and start relying on identity, the identity of someone who grows, someone who evolves, someone who refuses to remain the same. Over time, consistency becomes your superpower. It becomes the anchor that keeps you grounded, the engine that moves you forward, and the foundation that supports your transformation. And once you experience the power of consistency, you realize that 1% every day is not just a habit, it's a lifestyle. The reason 1% growth is so transformative is because it bypasses the mind's natural resistance to change. When you try to change everything at once, your mind becomes overwhelmed and pushes you back into old patterns. But when you aim for small, manageable improvements, your mind does not activate fear, stress, or self-doubt. It allows the change to happen. Your brain adapts gradually, building new neural pathways with every repetition, turning growth into a natural part of your daily routine. And each small step you take builds confidence. Because confidence is not created through massive leaps, it is created through consistent wins. Every day you follow through, you prove to yourself that you can be disciplined, you can be committed, you can be someone who takes action. And as that confidence grows, your goals no longer feel intimidating, they feel possible. Your dreams no longer feel distant, they feel reachable. The 1% habit is not about forcing change. It's about making change sustainable. And when change becomes sustainable, your transformation becomes permanent. Becoming 1% better every day transforms you because it forces you to face yourself, your weaknesses, your distractions, your excuses, and your self-imposed limitations. Every day you choose growth, you confront the part of you that wants to stay comfortable, stay safe, stay unchanged. And each time you choose the 1% improvement instead of the 0% stagnation, you strengthen the part of you that leads your life instead of sabotaging it. You start recognizing your patterns, understanding your triggers, and building discipline instead of relying on temporary motivation. You begin to see that success is not a single moment, but a series of choices, habits, and actions that compound over time. The 1% habit forces you to choose who you want to become, not just who you've been. And with each small improvement, you step deeper into the identity of the person you were meant to be. You realize that greatness is not built in one day, it's built daily. And that daily commitment becomes the anchor of your transformation. The truth about becoming 1% better every day is that it trains your mind to value progress over perfection. Because perfection is an illusion that stops more dreams than failure ever could. When you aim for perfection, you hesitate, you procrastinate, you fear mistakes, and you avoid action, because perfection demands conditions that reality cannot meet. But when you aim for 1% progress, you remove the pressure that keeps so many people stuck. You allow yourself to start before you're ready, act before you're confident, and move even when you're uncertain. The 1% mindset gives you permission to be imperfect while still evolving, to be learning while still advancing, to be growing while still figuring things out. It teaches you that imperfect action builds momentum, while waiting for perfection builds nothing. Every small improvement chips away at the fears and excuses that once held you back. Every tiny step builds a foundation stronger than the person who waited for the perfect moment that never arrived. And the moment you embrace progress over perfection, your life expands, your confidence rises, and your potential becomes limitless. When you commit to becoming 1% better every day, you begin to realize how powerful small habits truly are, because your life is not determined by occasional dramatic choices, but by the tiny, consistent actions you repeat day after day. Your habits shape your identity long before your accomplishments do. And when you choose micro improvements daily, reading a little more, learning something new, exercising a bit longer, meditating a few extra minutes, choosing better decisions, you build a life that grows quietly but powerfully beneath the surface. These small habits become the roots of your transformation, anchoring you so deeply that setbacks can no longer uproot your progress. Eventually, your habits start working for you instead of against you. They become automatic, natural, effortless. You no longer force yourself to grow, you instinctively grow because growth has become part of who you are. And when your habits align with your future becomes inevitable. The 1% habit also forces you to confront the invisible battles within your mind, the doubts, fears, insecurities, and limiting beliefs that sabotage your potential. Every day you choose improvement, you challenge the part of your mind that wants to remain the same. Your mind loves familiarity, and anything unfamiliar triggers internal resistance. But by choosing small daily improvements, you gently expand the boundaries of your comfort zone without overwhelming your nervous system. You teach your mind that growth is safe, progress is normal, and discomfort is a sign of evolution, not danger. Over time, your mental resistance weakens because you've proven day after day that you are capable of change. Fear loses its authority, doubt loses its power, insecurity loses its voice, and the mental patterns that once controlled your life begin to dissolve. You become stronger inside, not because fear disappears, but because you stop letting fear direct your decisions. This internal strength becomes the fuel that powers your long-term transformation. One of the most profound benefits of becoming 1% better every day is how dramatically it changes your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who struggles with discipline and start seeing yourself as someone who builds it daily. You stop seeing yourself as someone who gets overwhelmed and start seeing yourself as someone who moves forward consistently. You stop identifying with your past failures and start identifying with your present progress. Identity is the foundation of long-term change because you will always behave in alignment with who you believe you are. And when your identity shifts from I'm trying to I improve every day, your entire behavior follows. You begin making choices aligned with growth. You begin prioritizing what supports your future instead of what satisfies the moment. You begin living with intention, purpose, clarity, and strength. The 1% habit doesn't just change what you do, it changes who you are. And when your identity transforms, your destiny transforms with it. The habit of becoming 1% better every day teaches you the value of patience, a quality rarely celebrated, but always essential for greatness. In a world obsessed with quick results and instant gratification, patience is a superpower few possess. But when you commit to steady, incremental improvement, you learn to trust the process instead of rushing the outcome. You stop chasing shortcuts and start embracing the long game. You understand that real transformation takes time, that sustainable change grows slowly, and that the most powerful progress is often invisible until suddenly everything shifts. Patience teaches you to appreciate your journey, not just your destination. It teaches you to honor your small wins, not just your big ones. It teaches you to keep showing up, even when progress feels slow, because slow progress is still progress. And when patience becomes your strength, you build the kind of resilience that keeps you moving long after others have quit. This is how 1% every day becomes unstoppable through quiet, persistent faith in your long-term growth. Becoming 1% better every day transforms you because it builds a mindset of self-trust, that you can show up for yourself, trust that you can stay committed, trust that you can follow through even when it's difficult. Most people don't fail because they're incapable. They fail because they don't trust themselves to stay consistent long enough to see results. But when you commit to small, daily improvements, you rebuild that lost trust piece by piece. Every completed task becomes evidence. Every small win becomes validation. Every day you improve becomes a message to your mind that says, I keep my promises. And when your brain starts believing that you show up no matter what, your entire relationship with discipline changes. You go from forcing yourself to take action to naturally taking action because it aligns with who you are becoming. Self-trust becomes the engine behind your progress, not motivation, not hype, not external pressure. And once you trust yourself deeply, nothing can stop you because the battle inside you is finally working in your favor instead of against you. The habit of improving 1% daily also elevates your standards because the more you grow, the less comfortable you become with staying the same. Growth becomes addictive, not in a stressful way, but in a purposeful way. You start wanting to read more, learn more, work harder, think bigger, and live more intentionally. You begin seeing areas of your life that once felt good enough as opportunities for expansion. You develop a hunger for progress, a desire for mastery, and a commitment to excellence, not because perfection is the goal, but because becoming your best self becomes your priority. Your standards rise because your self-worth rises. You stop settling for average habits, average choices, and average results. You start demanding more from yourself, not out of pressure, but out of respect. And when your standards rise, your life rises with them. You begin attracting better opportunities, better, not because perfection is the goal, but because becoming your best self becomes your priority. Your standards rise because your self-worth rises. You stop settling for average habits, average choices, and average results. You start demanding more from yourself, not out of pressure, but out of respect. And when your standards rise, your life rises with them. You begin attracting better opportunities, making you more capable of handling stress, setbacks, and uncertainty. Instead of breaking under pressure, you begin adapting to it. Instead of crumbling during difficult moments, you rise through them. Instead of retreating when life gets heavy, you become someone who grows stronger because of the weight not weaker beneath it. Resilience is not something you are born with. It is something you build through repetition and the small, daily challenges you overcome through the 1% habit. Train your mind to stay focused, calm, and unwavering even when life tests you. Eventually, problems that once overwhelmed you become problems you solve with ease. Stress that once defeated you become stress you navigate with strength. The resilience you build becomes the armor that carries you through every storm with unshakable defiance. The 1% habit transforms you because it removes the illusion of overnight success and replaces it with the reality of compounded effort. You begin understanding that every major accomplishment you admire, whether it's physical transformation, financial success, emotional healing, or personal mastery, was built through thousands of tiny efforts that the world never saw. Success is not a single moment, it is the accumulation of hundreds of consistent decisions made quietly, privately, and repeatedly over time. This habit teaches you to appreciate the unseen work, the invisible effort, and the silent dedication that leads to visible results. You no longer chase shortcuts because you recognize that shortcuts steal the depth of growth. You no longer look for excuses because excuses sabotage momentum. You no longer envy others because you see that their success was built the same way yours will be, one day at a time. The 1% lifestyle shifts your perspective so deeply that you no longer focus on how long the journey is. You focus on the fact that you're moving forward, and forward is all you need. When you commit to improving 1% every day, you realize that your future is not determined by your current circumstances, it is determined by your current decisions. Circumstances may slow you, distract you, or challenge you, but they cannot stop you if you remain committed to consistent improvement. The 1% mindset teaches you that even on bad days, you can still grow. Even when life is chaotic, you can still make progress. Even when motivation is gone, you can still show up in a smaller but meaningful way. This habit grants you freedom from the idea that you need perfect conditions to change your life. You don't. You just need the willingness to be better today than you were yesterday. This perspective gives you power in moments where you used to feel helpless. It gives you focus in moments where you used to feel lost. It gives you direction in moments where you used to feel stuck. And once you understand that progress is always available to you no matter the situation, you become unstoppable. Because nothing external can prevent you from making an internal decision to grow. One of the most transformative aspects of the 1% habit is that it teaches you how to win the day, rather than trying to win your entire life at once. You stop obsessing over huge goals that feel overwhelming and start focusing on daily victories that build real momentum. Each day becomes an opportunity to rewrite your story, strengthen your discipline, and reinforce the identity of someone who grows consistently. Instead of feeling crushed by long-term pressure, you feel empowered by short-term progress. And this shift is massive because success is not built in the future, it is built today. It is built when you wake up and choose discipline instead of comfort. It is built when you do the small things most people overlook. It is built when you honor your commitments even when no one is watching. Winning the day becomes your new standard, and slowly, it becomes a habit, one that shapes your mindset, amplifies your ambition, and multiplies your confidence. When you learn to win the day, you learn to win your future. The 1% habit is life-changing because it eliminates the illusion that you must rely on motivation to transform your life. Motivation is unpredictable. Some days it's strong, some days it's gone, and some days it's nowhere to be found. But when you commit to 1% improvement, you detach your progress from emotional fluctuations. You no longer wait to feel ready, because readiness becomes irrelevant. What matters is the action, not the emotion. What matters is the consistency, not the comfort. What matters is the decision, not the mood. Over time, this detachment creates emotional maturity and mental toughness that most people never develop. You become someone who acts regardless of how you feel. Someone who stays committed even when motivation disappears. Someone who understands that discipline will take you further than emotion ever could. And when you stop depending on motivation, you become a machine of progress, steady, powerful, and unstoppable. The 1% improvement mindset also transforms your relationship with failure by making it a natural part of growth rather than something to fear. Instead of seeing failure as a sign to quit, you begin seeing it as feedback, guidance, and direction. Each mistake becomes a lesson. Each setback becomes redirection. Each struggle becomes an opportunity to refine your skills and strengthen your resolve. When you improve slowly and steadily, failure no longer derails you, it fuels you. It teaches you what to adjust, what to improve, and what to avoid. And because your progress is built on small, manageable steps, failure becomes far less intimidating because it never destroys your momentum. You can always try again tomorrow. You can always improve again today. Failure loses its power when you commit to daily growth, because a single bad day means nothing in a lifetime of consistency. And when failure becomes your teacher instead of your enemy, your growth becomes limitless. The habit of becoming 1% better every day sharpens your awareness and forces you to pay attention to how you live, how you think, and how you use your time. You start noticing how often you waste energy on distractions, negativity, or activities that do not support your future. You become more conscious of your habits, your choices, and your internal dialogue. This awareness becomes a powerful tool for transformation because you cannot improve what you do not understand. As you grow 1% at a time, you begin identifying patterns that hold you back, patterns of procrastination, patterns of self-doubt, patterns of avoidance, patterns of comfort seeking. You start replacing these patterns with intentional habits that align with your goals. You develop clarity around what truly matters and eliminate what doesn't. And the more aware you become, the more control you gain over your life. Awareness becomes the lens that guides your decisions, sharpens your focus, and deepens your purpose. The final gift of the 1% daily improvement habit is that it builds unshakable confidence not based on ego or external validation, but on evidence. Every day you grow, you create proof. Every day you improve, you build belief. Every day you show up, you strengthen your identity. Confidence is not built through compliments or achievements. It is built when you repeatedly witness your own consistency. This is the deepest, strongest, most reliable form of self-confidence a person can have. It doesn't fade when you make mistakes. It doesn't disappear when life gets hard. It doesn't collapse under pressure. It stays with you because it was earned, not given. And once you possess this kind of confidence, you stop second-guessing yourself and start trusting the person you are becoming. You begin living with a kind of power that cannot be shaken by failure, fear, or judgment. That is what 1% daily improvement creates. One of the most empowering truths about the 1% habit is that it turns you into a creator rather than a reactor. Most people move through life reacting to circumstances, reacting to emotions, reacting to problems, reacting to stress. But the moment you choose daily improvement, you shift from reaction to intention. You begin shaping your days instead of being shaped by them. You begin influencing your environment instead of being controlled by it. You begin choosing your actions instead of being pulled by impulses or distractions. This shift from reaction to creation is where real transformation happens, because you realize that you no longer have to wait for life to give you opportunities, you can create them. You no longer have to wait for external conditions to align, you can align yourself internally and make progress regardless of what happens around you. And when you live with intention instead of reaction, You no longer float through life, you drive it. You become the architect of your habits, your choices, your behavior, and ultimately, your future. The 1% habit also teaches you the importance of micro-discipline, because discipline does not begin with huge commitments, it begins with small, repeated actions that strengthen your mental muscle. Micro-discipline is the practice of choosing the slightly harder option instead of the easy one, choosing the slightly better decision instead of the convenient one, choosing the slightly more productive action instead of the distracting one. It's not about being perfect, it's about being intentional. Micro-discipline builds macro results. Each time you choose a tiny improvement, you strengthen the neural pathways of discipline in your brain, making future discipline easier. Over time, what once felt difficult becomes natural. What once felt forced becomes automatic. And what once felt impossible becomes part of your identity. The stronger your discipline becomes in small areas, the more capable you become in big areas. This is how 1% growth compounds into unstoppable personal power. It builds you internally before the world ever sees your external results. Another powerful effect of the 1% habit is that it transforms procrastination not by fighting it, but by outgrowing it. Procrastination thrives on overwhelm, perfectionism, and fear of failure. But when you commit to just 1% improvement, overwhelm disappears because the task becomes small. Perfectionism fades because perfection is no longer the goal, progress is. Fear of failure weakens because the risk becomes small and manageable. When tasks feel easier to start, procrastination loses its grip on your mind. You no longer wait for the perfect moment because the perfect moment is always now. You no longer avoid difficult goals because 1% makes every goal approachable. Procrastination becomes irrelevant because your mindset is no longer focused on completing everything perfectly, it's focused on starting, improving, and moving forward. Over time, you become someone who acts immediately instead of delaying endlessly. And when procrastination no longer controls you, growth becomes your natural state. The 1% habit also builds stability in your emotional life because small daily wins reduce anxiety, strengthen optimism, and create a sense of direction. Anxiety grows when you feel stuck, overwhelmed, or uncertain about your path. But when you improve every day even slightly, you give your brain consistent proof that you are progressing. This reduces stress because progress, even in small doses, creates emotional relief. It reinforces the belief that your situation is improving, your efforts matter, and your actions are meaningful. Emotional stability doesn't come from avoiding challenges, it comes from knowing you're moving forward despite them. When you improve 1% daily, your emotions no longer dictate your actions. Your actions regulate your emotions. You become calmer, more grounded, more confident, and more centered. The weight of your dreams becomes lighter because it's no longer all at once. It's one small step every day. And when your emotions stabilize, your mind becomes a far more powerful ally in your journey. Finally, the 1% habit strengthens your sense of purpose, because purpose isn't found in one moment, it's discovered through repeated small actions that align with your values and goals. Every day you grow, you gain more clarity about who you are and who you want to become. Purpose becomes clearer through movement, not through waiting. You stop searching for meaning and start creating it through discipline, progress, and intentional living. Each small improvement builds a clearer picture of the person you're meant to be. Purpose becomes less abstract and more tangible because you feel yourself evolving into a higher version of yourself. You begin to understand your strengths, embrace your responsibilities, and recognize your potential. And once your daily actions align with your future vision, life stops feeling random, it becomes meaningful. This alignment between action and purpose is the core of true fulfillment. And all of it begins with the simple, powerful decision to improve just 1% every day. The most profound shift that happens when you commit to the 1% habit is how it transforms your relationship with time. Instead of seeing time as something you must race against, you begin seeing it as something that works with you. You stop fearing the future because you know you're building toward it daily. You stop regretting the past because you're rewriting your story one improvement at a time. You stop feeling rushed, overwhelmed, or defeated because small progress removes the pressure of having to change everything at once. Time becomes your partner rather than your enemy. You start respecting every hour, every day, every opportunity differently because you understand that consistency magnifies whatever you invest your time into. And suddenly, you begin noticing the compounding effect. Your skills sharpen, your confidence grows, your habits strengthen, and your life begins aligning with your higher potential. You realize the future is not created by one massive moment. It is created by small, intentional days. And the moment you understand this truth, you stop wasting time and start using it with purpose. The habit of improving 1% every day also reshapes the way you interpret success, because success stops being a distant finish line and becomes a daily pattern of behavior. You no longer see success as something other people achieve. You see it as something you build with your own hands, your own choices, and your own discipline. You begin to understand that the people you admire aren't magical, they are consistent. They didn't rise because they were lucky, they rose because they chose small, disciplined improvements long after others stopped trying. This realization removes the mystery behind success and replaces it with clarity. You start seeing success as predictable, measurable, and achievable because the formula becomes simple: grow a little every day. The 1% habit makes success feel attainable because it breaks it down into steps anyone can follow. And the moment success feels attainable, your belief in yourself skyrockets. You stop waiting for permission. You stop waiting for the right moment. You stop waiting for signs. You start building, becoming, and evolving one small step at a time. Another transformative element of the 1% mindset is that it eliminates the emotional roller coaster most people experience when pursuing big goals. You no longer feel defeated when progress is slow because slow progress is your strategy. You no longer feel impatient when results take time because time is built into the process. You no longer feel discouraged by setbacks because you know that setbacks are just 1% days with different lessons. This stabilizes your emotional landscape, allowing you to stay consistent without the highs and lows that sabotage most people's journeys. You become grounded, centered, and emotionally prepared for long-term growth. You understand that mastery takes thousands of repetitions, and each repetition is simply another 1% added to your foundation. This emotional stability is priceless because it prevents burnout, anxiety, and discouragement. It keeps you steady when others quit. It keeps you focused when others get distracted. It keeps you dedicated when others lose their way. And in the long run, emotional stability becomes one of your greatest competitive advantages. The 1% habit also strengthens your identity through repetition, because your identity is shaped not by what you say, but by what you repeatedly do. Every time you act, your brain makes a note. This is who we are. If you quit easily, your brain labels you a quitter. If you procrastinate often, your brain labels you as inconsistent. But when you show up daily, even in small ways, your brain starts labeling you as someone who grows, someone who improves, someone who honors their commitments. And once your identity begins to shift, your behavior follows effortlessly. You no longer fight with yourself to take action, you act because that is who you are. You no longer struggle to stay disciplined, you are disciplined by identity. You no longer sabotage yourself because your actions and identity match your vision. This identity shift is where transformation becomes permanent. When you no longer have to convince yourself to grow because growing is what you naturally do, you become unstoppable. And the repetition of daily improvement engraves this identity deeper and deeper into your mind. Finally, the 1% habit shows you that greatness doesn't require extraordinary talent, impossible discipline, or superhuman motivation. It requires daily devotion. It requires patience. It requires humility. It requires the willingness to take small steps, even when no one is watching, even when results are invisible, even when progress feels slow. This habit teaches you that the gap between who you are and who you want to become is not crossed in one leap, it is crossed through thousands of tiny steps. And the moment you embrace this truth, you stop chasing shortcuts and start embracing real transformation. You realize you already have everything you need to rise your effort, your consistency, your desire to evolve. You understand that 1% every day is not small, it is unstoppable when multiplied over time. And this understanding becomes the seed of a completely new life, a life built not on intensity, but on intentional, persistent, unbreakable growth. The 1% habit reshapes your entire mindset because it teaches you to fall in love with the process instead of obsessing over the outcome. When you grow every day, you no longer chase results with desperation. You allow results to come naturally as a byproduct of your consistency. You stop needing instant gratification because you trust the compounding power of daily action. You begin appreciating the quiet victories that no one sees, the extra push, the extra page, the extra rep, the extra discipline. This love for the process becomes your internal engine, producing sustained momentum instead of temporary motivation. It eliminates the emotional pressure of where should I be, and replaces it with the clarity of what can I do today. And when your focus shifts from impatience to improvement, your life becomes calmer, clearer, and more powerful. You develop a mindset that doesn't break when progress is slow, because slow progress is your strategy, not your setback. And this love for the process becomes the foundation of a transformed life. The 1% habit also deepens your sense of responsibility, because daily improvement forces you to take ownership of your choices and actions. You stop blaming circumstances because you know you can always improve something today. You stop blaming people because your growth no longer depends on their behavior. You stop blaming the past because the past loses power when the present is being rewritten. Responsibility becomes empowering, not burdensome. You begin feeling in control of your life because you are consistently building it. And the more ownership you take, the more capable you feel. You no longer see yourself as a victim of life, you see yourself as a creator of your future. This shift in responsibility strengthens your character, sharpens your judgment, and elevates your self-respect. You begin trusting your decisions, standing by your actions, and relying on your discipline. Responsibility becomes the gateway to freedom, because when you own your life fully, nothing can hold you back. The 1% lifestyle empowers you to break old patterns because small improvements disrupt the cycles that once trapped you. Every positive action weakens a negative habit. Every healthy decision shrinks an unhealthy one. Every moment of discipline replaces a moment of distraction. Slowly, silently, and steadily, your old identity begins dissolving. You stop repeating the same mistakes because you're no longer the same person who made them. Your patterns shift, your decisions shift, your mindset shifts. Consistent improvement creates new emotional responses, new ways of thinking, new ways of behaving. And eventually, the habits that once sabotaged your progress become unrecognizable. You look back and realize you have outgrown the person you used to be, not because of one massive breakthrough, but because of thousands of small, intentional breakthroughs. And this realization becomes one of the most empowering moments of your life. The habit of improving 1% every day elevates every area of your life, because growth in one area creates growth in others. When you discipline your mind, your body improves. When your body improves, your energy rises. When your energy rises, your productivity increases. When your productivity increases, your opportunities expand. Growth multiplies. One small improvement sets off a chain reaction that begins transforming everything around you. You become more patient, more confident, more focused, more resilient. You start attracting better relationships, better habits, better environments. You start making decisions with clarity instead of fear. You start living intentionally instead of drifting aimlessly. And the longer you live this lifestyle, the more you realize that the 1% habit doesn't just change one part of your life, it changes all of it. It becomes the center of your evolution, the foundation of your success, and the engine behind your transformation. The ultimate truth about the 1% habit is this: it guarantees transformation for anyone who practices it long enough. You don't need to be talented. You don't need to be confident. You don't need perfect circumstances. You only need the willingness to grow a little every day. That willingness becomes your power. It becomes the force that shapes your future, the strength that carries you through challenges, and the mindset that makes your goals achievable. Over time, 1% becomes 100%. Small steps become massive milestones. Tiny improvements become life-changing results. And one day, you wake up realizing the person you've become is unrecognizable in the best possible way: stronger, wiser, disciplined, powerful, unstoppable. This habit does not just transform your days, it transforms your destiny. And it all begins with the smallest, simplest, yet most powerful commitment of your life: get better, just a little, every single day. If this message helped you understand your mind, break through your fears, or reclaim your strength, then don't leave without supporting this channel. Make sure you subscribe to Daily Global Motivation, because every day we bring you powerful, life-changing messages designed to elevate your mindset and transform your future. Don't forget to like this video so more people can find it. Comment below and tell us what part spoke to your heart, and share this message with someone who needs it today. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.